And Trey Gowdy, former federal prosecutor and host of Sunday Night in America on Fox News. Trey, great to see you. You've been wearing your pants thin, watching this trial. And I just have to ask, first of all, that we heard from Ty Cobb. He was one of Donald Trump's former lawyers, a name you'll never forget, Ty Cobb. The jury instructions, he says that there's going to be a guilty verdict because the jury instructions are so vague and so favoring any kind of charge that it would almost require a guilty verdict at some point. What do you say to that?
Well, I don't want to predict the verdict because I did it for so long and was so bad at it. I will say that not just the jury instruction favored the prosecution, but the judge's rulings, the exclusion of an FEC expert, the allowing Michael Cohen's guilty plea, which is what we call propensity evidence, the fact that or proximity evidence, take your pick. The fact that you're around people who are guilty does not make you guilty. The fact that they're Karen McDougal and other alleged misconduct, that's not in the indictment. So I think the deck has been stacked towards a conviction and away from an acquittal. It's not just the jury instruction. That was just kind of the final piece to the puzzle.
Well, you said something earlier I heard on Fox News. You said that it was kind of unusual for the judge to invite the jury to ask him questions. Usually the judge doesn't like to go through all that, leave them on their own to come up with a decision. But he wants, it seems to me like he really wants to control this narrative. I think back to when he didn't allow Brad Smith to come in to talk about federal election law because he said, I want to do it. In fact, I think we have a full screen we can put up. He said the other day on Tuesday, I believe it was, he said, stay away from the law, stay away from the law, stay away from the law. He repeated that 3 times. He said, that's my job. I will take care of it. Again, he wants to control the narrative, even if other people know better about the law than he does. And I'm talking about Brad Smith.
Well, I was in the courtroom when he said that, and my reaction was just to be stunned, because if you're the lawyer giving summation, I mean, the job of the jury is to apply the facts to the law. So how can a lawyer make an argument, closing argument to the jury, whether you're a prosecutor or a defense attorney, without making reference to the law? Now, what I used to say is, look, I think the judge is going to tell you the law is X. If he tells you something or she tells you something otherwise, follow what the judge tells you. Every judge in America will allow you to say that, except the one presiding over this trial. He has made it clear. One of the few times he ever sustained an objection against the prosecution by the defense was because they were talking about the law. So how do you convince a jury that the facts don't match the law if the judge is not allowing you to argue the law? I've never seen that before. I've never seen a judge not allow the jury instructions to go back with the jury room.
Right.
How can you remember 50-something pages worth of archaic legal instruction just based on your memory?
Well,
how can you do that?
And it's not just the jury. The defendant has to know what charges he's there to defend himself against. And in fact, today we heard of this tax charge that was not adjudicated at all in the courtroom. So a juror in the jury room, without any legal expertise around, can decide for himself to convict on something that was not adjudicated at all in the courtroom and that the defendant couldn't defend himself against. There's so many violations of what seem to me to be due process in this case.
All right, we don't know the elements, and when I hear the word crime, I think that a jury has convicted someone or you have pled guilty. That's what a crime is. So if there's been no adjudication, then by what standard of proof does this jury have to find one of those other ancillary crimes was committed? Can it only be one of those 3? Does it have to be a U.S. crime? My colleague Andy McCarthy said, what if it's a violation of Sharia law? Is that also, quote, a crime? It is almost void for vagueness, which is a constitutional term, that something can be unconstitutional because it is so vague.
Yeah. Now, you said something last night. I think it was in your notes with Andy McCarthy. You two were talking late in the night. You said about a mistake that might have been made by the Trump team, that to suggest that Trump wasn't paying Cohen, which was a suggestion made by the Trump team. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you said just admit that it was there, and that an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, is not illegal. Just admit that it was there, because they're not being told whether it's legal or illegal.
Yeah, let me just say this in defense of the defense attorneys. It is hard to be a criminal defendant, and it is hard to run for president. It is almost impossible to do both at the same time. So what would ordinarily be a good legal defense, which is, you know what, yes, I had relations with Stormy Daniels. I'm not proud about it, but yes, I did. And yes, I repaid my lawyer, which is called a legal expense. It's a reimbursement to a lawyer for a settlement, and that, guess what, is called a legal expense. Yeah. I think if he were not running for president, he would have said yes to both, but I didn't commit a crime. Instead, the defense is, I did not have relations with Stormy Daniels, and I didn't know anything about those payments. I say admit what doesn't matter and deny what does. I think in this case, maybe because of the politics of it, they had to deny things that I think a jury is probably concluding were true.
Now, Trey, they're giving me a rap. You know what that's like. But I have to ask this final question. This pick one of the three things, instruction that the jury was given finally today by Judge Merchant. Have you ever heard of that, where you can have a divided jury, but as long as they pick one of three charges, none of which have fully been adjudicated in the courtroom, by the way, by defense and prosecution, as long as you pick one of the three, then we can convict this guy of a felony?
Yes, I saw it about a week ago at the Golden Corral. It's called a buffet. You can go just kind of pick what you want. Have I ever seen it in a courtroom? Absolutely never. Have I seen it in a restaurant? From time to time, I have, yes.
Unbelievable. And if this does go to appeal, do you have any doubt that Trump would win on appeal?
Yeah, but, you know, the reality, I think, he believes this is election interference designed to hurt him in November. Right. By the time the appeal is settled, November will be long gone, and they will have accomplished what they wanted to do, which is hurt him politically.
It would take longer than 5 months to get this into appeal.
No doubt. And to get an opinion, no doubt.
Wow. Trey Gowdy. Wonderful stuff, Trey.
I'm not sure he'll be sentenced in 5 months. Thanks. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I got to leave it at that. Trey Gowdy, good to see you, my friend. Thanks very much. We could talk for hours.
Yes,
Don't
sir.
miss Trey, by the way, on Sunday night in America. Lord knows what's going to happen by then. You got to tune into Trey Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox News.